Hi guys, welcome to Reporter Room. My name is Jessica Della Davies and I'm an investigative journalist. Today we're going to be talking about the Quinton Simon case. We're going to be doing updates regarding Billie Jo Howell and also Leilani. There's been some things that have been going on, so we need to talk about it. Before we get started, I just want to thank our executive producers. And that's Energy Shots and Joy Cowley, and also our channel members. We are so grateful for all of you. And if you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. So I'm so glad you guys are here. Let me close this out so I can see you. And I can see Sugar Cookie, My Insane World of Beauty Tara, Rhiannon Evans, Sweet Bee. She lost her main account. YouTube is being worried. Oh, okay. Oh no. I'm so sorry that happened to you, Sweet Bee. And Mama Bear is here. So I'm really glad you guys are here. We have some stuff to talk about. I have a package prepared for you. And we're going to get right into it because you guys know I like to get into everything really quickly. If you haven't already subscribed, please do, and give this video a thumbs up to help Reporter Room with the YouTube algorithm. And I'm so sorry about my voice. I've been sick for a week and I am so congested. Hi, Jakey5. All right, so let me add this in. Let's see. Okay. Just want to swap those two. There we go. Okay, so let's get started, guys.
Phone call. I would like to say to whoever has my children that they please.
We just hoping that he's in somebody's house.
To us where they belong.
Maybe they thought they were his savior. Happy and alive. We want him back in our arms.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello. It's really painful trying to see Leilani and Billie Jo trying to squeeze out a tear. They really tried, but I didn't see anything coming out. So, hi, Holly Golightly. It's great to see you guys here today. Rhiannon's here. Mama Bear is here. Tara's here. Sweet Bee is here. And so anyway, we're going to get into it. And I do have some new information to share with you guys. So let me get that open. So Billie Jo Howell has arrests all over the United States, including Clay County, Florida. And she was trying to smuggle some kind of contraband, and she's been arrested for prostitution, credit card fraud, and you can verify the Clay County arrest just by going to do a simple Clay County, which is located in Florida, record search. So she's got arrests for prostitution, credit card fraud, substances, burglary, larceny. So I'm not clear on why Billie Jo was awarded custody of Quinton and Zane to begin with. Don't you have to do a background check to have any kind of custody of kids like that? What do you guys think? I'm so sorry you guys aren't getting notified. Please hit the notification bell right now just in case, just to make sure you guys are getting notified, because you should be able to get notified. Jody Jackson says, peace. I meant this case makes me so angry. Yeah, I get it. Um, I think a lot of us feel really angry about this and find so much truth. It feels like it looks sketchy. So yeah, she's got this like massive arrest record. So I'm not really clear on why they thought it was a great idea to award her custody of Quinton to begin with. That just doesn't make any sense. And Rianne says that she would have thought a background check would have been necessary. I agree, Rianne. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And my side says the whole family is sick, and even worse, the creators who back them. Yeah, I think it's really sad. I actually had somebody unfollow me because I said I was going to be talking about them, and she just decided on her own that it was because I was backing the creators. But um, anyway, that's not the case. I'm not backing. I'm not trashing any creators, but I'm not backing Billie Jo at all. So Bonnie Bailey says that was so wrong, and you are right, Bonnie. So let's talk about this. We're going to go through it point by point on this case, and then I'm going to be adding in some new updates from when I recorded this earlier today, because believe it or not, still new information is coming to light. Reporter Room Investigators. My name is Jessica Della Davies, and today we're going to be talking about the Quinton Simon case. Let's get into it. So let's peel back the layers on this family's dysfunction, starting with Billie Jo Howell and her eldest son, who is incarcerated, and moving down to Leilani, and then ultimately what happened to Quinton Simon. Billie Jo's daughter is a prime suspect in what happened to Quinton, right? She's been named as the only primary suspect by law enforcement. And I believe this is because they have her on video throwing him away. This is the worst tragedy that we've seen since the Susan Smith, Casey Anthony, and Chris Watts tragedies in my Sorry, let me turn my microphone on. So Tara made a really great point. She didn't understand how it was legal for the daughter, that's Leilani, to be in the house at all. And I think a lot of us, really can agree on this point, because we just don't understand how do we get to a point where Zane and Quinton both ended up in the same household under the same roof with Leilani. Again, it was Billie Jo who was entrusted with the care of these two boys, and they were taken away from Leilani for good reason, in my opinion. And everything I'm sharing with you today is my opinion, and opinions are not facts. So please don't send any negativity to anyone. Let's be kind and good to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So, and then Brienne says, no idea what will happen to Leilani, as the FBI have quit searching landfill as I thought they would. So you called it, Brienne. You thought the other day that you thought they were going to not be able to find him in the landfill. And it is really interesting. Before we lose a lot of hope on this, I just want to remind everybody that it took 4 months plus, 4+ months for law enforcement to find Kaylee Anthony, but they did find her. So they've held everything really close to the chest on how things are going to go. So, don't stress out too much yet. Let's just give them a chance to do it. Part of the reason they may have called off the search into the landfill is they may feel like at this point, whatever they would be able to recover would, because he's so little and because his bones are so soft, and I'm really watching my words here, whatever they thought they might be able to recover, they may have just felt like they weren't going to be able to get that. So the other thing could be that they have another lead or another tip. Holly says that they would have had a home visit and a pass. So maybe Billie Jo was rehabilitated. Foster homes are hard to find, and it's hard to keep kids together. You're right. And they did keep the boys together. And I know foster homes are far and few between. That's so true. And Lindy Lou says Leilani was living with her when she took them home. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard that before. So, and then Tara says, I watched the drama unfold with the creators outside the house fighting and screaming, even the planning of the clown. The police said once the storm is over, they're going to go back to the landfill. So, I do think that they are really looking hard for him. And so I do think they will find him. And I just, before you lose hope, just remember that if they decide they're not going to search the landfill, it's because they either don't think what they're able to recover is going to help them, or they have another lead. But I have not found anything, and I'm just doing a real quick search around while we're sitting here. I don't see anything online that tells me that they've stopped searching the landfill, just that they paused it, because we do know that there's some kind of a hurricane headed up the west coast of the United States. So maybe it's related to that. It could be related to budget issues. It could be related to another lead. But, Rian, you were saying you thought they were going to stop the landfill search, and, you very well could be right. But we'll just remain calm and let's carry on together. So let's continue on, because we have so much to unpack on this case, you guys. So much to unpack. Opinion. Let's go through some explosive details about what happened to Quinton Simon. And I'm going to be talking about Leilani and Billie Jo in just a moment, so please stay with me. Everything I'm sharing with you today is my opinion, and opinions are not facts, so please don't send any negativity to anyone, anytime, anywhere. Let's be kind and good to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a live stream or a new video, and let's get started. Who would take a little guy and throw him away like trash? Literally in the trash. What kind of a mother does this to her own child? We have seen all of this before. So this is not new, right? We've seen all of this before from other parents. We've seen this before in the Chris Watts case, right? When he literally put Bella and Cece into those tanks and buried his beautiful wife, who was pregnant with his unborn son, and buried her in a hole. He couldn't even put them all together. I mean, there was just the cruelty, and in the way that he disposed of them was just so heartless. And I think, we're seeing that heartlessness again. Now, to be clear, Casey Anthony, unlike Chris Watts, was found not guilty. But that case has to be weighing on law enforcement's mind, right? They have to be thinking about that and trying to figure out how they're going to proceed on this case without having Quinton. And with Casey, they did have Kaylee. And she, still wasn't found guilty. So I think that it's really tough to build a case on these and to get it before a jury. Now, they may have overcharged with Casey Anthony, and maybe that's what happened to it. But I also just think it was very, very hard. It's very hard for a jury to look at a young, beautiful mother, a young woman, and imagine that she could do that. It's really hard to reconcile those two things together, because being a mother is such a precious thing. It's such a sacred opportunity. It's one of the biggest things the best things you can do with your life is to pass on your values, your morals, your love, your kindness to your child. So I think that, they really do feel like they need to be able to build a really strong case. And I think the fact that they're already calling out Leilani is very, very telling. One of the things that's just really heartbreaking to hear is the fact that they are not able to, arrest her yet. And I think, protesters are becoming extremely frustrated with that. And Sweet Bee's right. They only get one shot. You only, in the United States, we have a double jeopardy rule, which means you only get one bite at the apple. So they have one chance to charge Leilani, and they don't know what charges to bring yet, probably because they don't have Quinton. I think that will help them answer what charges they're going to bring, how they're going to charge it. And yeah, thanks, Bonnie. If you guys could hit the like button, it'll really help me with the YouTube algorithm. And you're right, Rianne, a child is a gift from God, and they deserve to be treated with love and affection. And Gigi says, hi, I'm so glad to see you, Gigi. And Holly Golightly's talking about Chris Watts. He wanted to be free to be with NK. Yeah, that was just like so heartbreaking that, but get a divorce, as the prosecutor said. Why divorce? It would just be so easy to get a divorce. And I don't understand that. Find Summer's Truth said it's unimaginable. And I agree with that. So let's look at some of the other stuff that's come out just recently. So we know about Leilani, and we know that she has a criminal background, right? She was caught stealing from her employer. We know she's on probation for 2 offenses. One was stealing from her employer, and then another one is way worse. It was breaking into someone's house. And how she handled this was she didn't even say, okay, I broke into somebody's house. She turned around and literally blamed it on her ex, that he talked her into doing it. In other words, she wouldn't have really done this if she hadn't been talked into it. And I just, the lack of accountability, the lack of responsibility is just heartbreaking. How much do I think the boyfriend knows? Remain Calm wants to know. I think that's a great question. I don't know how much Danny knows, but I do know this. Law enforcement may have to make a deal with him. They haven't charged him. They haven't named him. They may need him. They may need him to make their case against Leilani. And we saw something that, may have been similar in the Chris Watts case, right? A lot of people wondered, how did they not charge NK? How was she not charged in all of this? Now, first of all, they may not have had anything to charge her with, because we, don't know what her level of culpability is. But it could also be that they didn't know he would plead guilty, right? That didn't happen until months later. So they didn't know she was going to cooperate. They didn't know if he was going to plead guilty or not. And so they may have needed her cooperation to be able to bring charges. And we're seeing this same scenario possibly playing out in what happened to Quinton with Leilani, right? They don't know what they're going to find when they find Quinton, or even 100% if they're going to be able to find him. Although I do think they'll continue to try to find him. But they may need Danny to make their case against Leilani, provided that they're able to fully rule him out. And this is such a great question, Rianne. Rianne wants to know, if he was innocent, she's talking about Danny, why did he leave the baby there? I don't know. Such a great question. Such a great question. And my size thinks that Danny knows more than he's saying. And then Tara's answering the question, why can't they let the public come in and help search in the landfill? Well, one, you would risk your chain of custody, right? You risk chain of custody when you have evidence that's not being collected by law enforcement. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous work. So let's continue on, guys, because we have a lot to get through. Let's continue on. I am sorry about my sore throat. I have been fighting this all week. And I just decided I would go live, sore throat or not. So I'm really glad you're here. If you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. And give me a thumbs up to help us out with the YouTube algorithm. It does really help out our channel. But let's continue on, guys. Right? We have seen also where people are convicted, but we've also seen where people have skated off, where we felt like the case should have been, a slam dunk. So I understand law enforcement's need to try to find little Quinton in order to make their case. Leilani has told one lie that has led us to another lie, which has led us to another lie. And her first lie was to suggest that Diana the babysitter was somehow involved because Diana had a key to the house and took care of little Quinton. Yeah, so there's just been a consistent dirtying up by Leilani and Billie Jo of everyone they can point the finger at, right? I just want to welcome Linda Liu. Welcome to becoming a channel member. I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much. And I'm glad you guys are here. Holly says, the boyfriend gives me pause. Yeah, me too. And Gigi says, do we think the landfill is a wild goose chase? I don't. I think that they do have video of Leilani throwing him away in the garbage, because let me just share with you what I pulled today. So they've spent weeks, right? For the last 2 weeks, they've had police, really 2.5 weeks, police and FBI agents scouring that landfill, and they haven't had any success. But they started at the Azalea Mobile Home Park, which is located in Savannah, Georgia. So we know that Quinton disappeared sometime after around 6 a.m. on October 5th, if you can believe Danny's account that he saw him at 6 a.m. And we have not seen anything that says for sure that Danny wasn't telling the truth. And the FBI said that they believe that Quinton was placed in a dumpster, and that would have been emptied by the county's waste management facility. And this is why law enforcement has been combing that landfill. So within 48 hours of Leilani calling 911 and reporting that Quinton was disappeared, that he walked out the door, he wandered off, more than a dozen police officers and FBI descended on that trailer park, and it has only about 200 or so homes in that park. So they knocked on all of the doors. They dumped all of the camera footage, and they asked locals whether they had seen Leilani's car. And at the very edge of this trailer park, there are 5 large green dumpsters, and sanitation picks them up 3 times a week and takes them to that waste management landfill that we see law enforcement searching. So this is why they're searching that landfill. I believe that they do have video footage of Leilani, who doesn't live at the Azalea Mobile Home Park, so she would have no business to be over there on the day that Quinton disappeared. I believe they have her on video throwing something away, possibly throwing Quinton away. And this is why they are looking for him so hard. Rianne thinks that Danny knows where Quinton is, in her opinion. And Holly Golightly wants to welcome you, Linda. And Bonnie Bailey said all of the thousands of dollars spent. Yeah, exactly. And then Tammy says she thinks that it was Cinema Shogun said something about the camera at the trailer park not being on. Not sure if it's true. I don't know. I have not seen anything from any source, any kind of journalistic source that has said that that law enforcement doesn't think the cameras are on. And so there's something that's drawing them to this landfill. Believe me, if they were going to search somewhere, this would not be in their top 10 choices of places to have to search, because it is a horrible, horrible thing. They're in hazmat suits. They're in hazmat suits searching. So I don't think they would be there in hazmat suits doing the search for this little guy if they didn't really believe that he was there. What do you guys think? And Shantae is saying that Leilani's best friend Paige lives in the trailer park. That's interesting. I had not heard that before. So they were asking neighbors if they, showing pictures of Quinton, showing pictures of, I'm assuming, Leilani. Yeah, and Bonnie Bailey, you're right. I mean, they're risking getting sick. They're risking getting ill. So yeah, they're putting their own health at jeopardy. That's why they don't have search dogs really in the landfill. We used to do the landfill searches with search and rescue dogs, but you're not really seeing that so much anymore, because it literally the dogs couldn't do their job in a hazmat suit, right? And it was literally causing health issues for these dogs. So Linda says that Danny probably didn't want to leave the baby behind. Knew Billie Jo and Leilani would have him arrested for kidnapping. His family are trying to get Sky, I believe. I hope they do. I hope they are able to get Sky, because I don't want to, we know that the children have been removed, and hopefully they're together, but it would be sad with everything else that's gone on if they were not together, right? If they had been separated. But let's continue on, because I watched this interview multiple times with Leilani and Billie Jo, and fake crying, Case Sloan, let me grab that comment. Yes. Yes. I mean, I couldn't see a tear. I couldn't see a tear. I saw people like trying to squeeze out a tear. And Kay Sloan does not think that he's in a landfill. She thinks he's in the park. I don't think law enforcement would be searching that landfill the way that they are if they didn't really think he was there. I think it would be a lot more physically comfortable for them to search in the park. And they may be searching there as well. And Mama Bear says she couldn't even put her hamster in the bin when he passed. It's heartbreaking. I just think that and look at Leilani, and then think back onto the Susan Smith case and Susan Smith was found guilty, and people, really had a hard time believing that she could do something like that to her little boys, right? And for those of you that don't remember this case, or maybe aren't familiar with it, Susan Smith was a young mother of 2 boys, and she claimed that she had been carjacked and by a black man. So she was prepared to blame a black man for this. She claimed that she had been carjacked and that the boys had been abducted along with the car. And then, of course, we found out, and I'm sure she had, planned for that car either to never be found, or if it was found, it would be blamed on the carjacker. Law enforcement did not buy her story. They did not buy it. And the 2 boys, we found out later, she confessed, and the 2 boys were found to be in the water. And she rolled that car into the water with her 2 boys alive in there and watched it go under. And so that is who Susan Smith is. So as hard as it is for a jury to reconcile a young mother with something like what happened to Susan Smith's 2 boys, we do need, and we saw in the case of Anthony, and she was found not guilty. In my opinion, and everything I'm sharing is just my opinion, the jury just couldn't reconcile that a young, attractive mother could do this. They just couldn't reconcile the 2 things. So law enforcement has got to be looking at Leilani and worrying about the same thing. So let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on. Leilani's next lie was to point the finger at Quinton's biological father, whose name is Bubba. So poor Bubba, his dad died. Let me grab that information for you. I mean, just so sad. What an awful time he's going through. And so, while he's going through this terrible time, he's getting dirtied up by Billie Jo and Leilani's plan, in my opinion. Because I do think that's why they went to that hotel. I think they were worried about being bugged, right, by the FBI. And they went to Stingrays. That was the celebration of them hatching their plan. So Bubba is Quinton's biological father, and Quinton's grandfather, Bubba's dad, was killed in a hit and run. So his name is Henry Bubba Moss Sr., and he was fatally struck on the side of the road when he was just pulling off the highway just north of Savannah, and he was hit by a car. So, I mean, Bubba's already going through a lot, but, Leilani and Billie Jo aren't going to let that stop them from trying to deflect from Leilani and just go ahead and send out Billie Jo's, I don't know if he's her stepson, if he's her real son. I don't know exactly how. I know it's a half brother of Leilani's that's been making the rounds. And, just go ahead and dirty up this poor guy who just lost his son and his father all in one brief period of time. But they didn't stop there. They tried to blame other people too. So let's talk about that. He had an alibi, and Leilani's next lie was to point the finger at Danny Youngkin. Now, Danny has left town. His parents came and picked him up, and so I don't think he can be completely ruled in or ruled out as a possible accomplice after the fact. And Leilani's next lie was to point the... So they dirtied up Danny Youngkin. Now, like I said, I don't know with 100% that, we can rule Danny in or out. I don't know. Jakey said his mother died, and he's talking about Bubba Jr. His mother died, and when his dad was hit by a car and run, he passed. Yeah, that's exactly right. So they tried to pin it on Bubba, but Bubba's been cleared by law enforcement. And supposedly, from what I'm hearing, Danny Youngkin's also been cleared. So they may believe that whatever happened to Quinton happened after Danny went to work that day. But like I said, it could also be that they need Danny. They need him to make the case if they make it. So, but, they just are dirtying up everybody that they can. Anything to deflect, just throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks, right? So let's continue on, guys, because they're not done dirtying people up yet. Finger at a stranger abduction. Leilani wants all of us to believe that a stranger came into her house, took Quinton because they wished they had a baby. Leilani claims that she's not going to run and she's going to turn herself. Yes, so when they couldn't pin it on Diana the babysitter, and they couldn't pin it on to Quinton's biological dad, Bubba Moss, and they couldn't pin it on to Danny Youngkin, they then moved on to it must be someone who wanted to have a baby so badly that they came into our house and took our baby. That's what they said in that interview. That's what they said. And I just think it's really, really sad. But again, they're just throwing everything against the wall, all the spaghetti they can, to see what will stick. Will the jury buy it? They want to muddy up the waters, right? Muddy up the waters. Will the jury buy it? And I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think a jury that we've learned, now that we've seen cases like Susan Smith and Chris Watts, that juries will learn that young parents and older parents too can do things that are egregious to their own offspring and still be attractive, right? Because Chris Watts, he was handsome. That's why I think, and he seemed so nice. He seemed so nice. And Susan Smith was a pretty young mother. She seemed so nice. She was another one, though, that was on camera trying to cry, couldn't squeeze out a tear. So law enforcement has got to be worried about that. Thanks, Cool Gamer. You made my day. It's the Azalea Trailer Park. Find Summer's Truth. It's the Azalea Trailer Park. And Tara says, if you watched the riot the other night, they had loud music screaming over the protesters. Yeah, they seem like they're just like a lot. I mean, let's compare their behavior to George and Cindy Anthony. George and Cindy Anthony, and Gigi saying this is a little like the story too. It really is. And let's look at George and Cindy Anthony. First of all, Cindy called law enforcement on her own daughter. She wasn't playing. She wanted to know where her granddaughter was. And in contrast to Billie Jo, who just seems to be, interested in engaging with the protesters or appearing on YouTube to muddy the waters, they actually made t-shirts for Kaylee. They actually posted flyers. They didn't just sit at home and say, well, law enforcement told us not to do anything. They actually became active. And, just know they're not under arrest. So law enforcement can't prevent them from posting flyers or making t-shirts or searching for little Quinton. Law enforcement cannot legally stop Leilani and Billie Jo from doing any of those things. They are perfectly capable of being able to go out and do those things. So I think that it's really interesting that nothing else is being done from their side to find him. And, it makes a lot of us wonder, is it because they already know what happened? Do they already know? So let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on. However, Leilani has no credibility because she has told lie upon lie. And I'm going to talk about Billie Jo in just a moment. So please stay with me. So what will happen when law enforcement finds Quinton? Well, I believe that they will be able to make an arrest at that time. And before you start to feel frustrated that they haven't found Quinton yet, just remember it took law enforcement 4 months plus to find little Kaylee Anthony. They never did find some of the other children who have gone missing. So just know that it doesn't always happen as quickly as we would like to. And we're just going to have to let them do what they need to do to find him in this landfill. Quinton. And guys, let's not go after any other creators in the live stream. I want to try to I don't like to do any kind of creator drama. So just please don't call it any creator by name. I don't think it's a bad thing to have, in my opinion, to have Billie. Oh my gosh, I paused that video in such a weird spot. That's worse. I don't think that it's such a bad thing to have Billie Jo and Leilani on talking. I noticed Leilani's not getting up on the camera, but I don't think it's a bad thing to let them keep talking. I really don't. I don't think it's the end of the world for them to keep talking. I know that isn't the popular opinion, but I think that, it's okay for them to continue to talk. A lot of it's just trying to dirty up other people, but I think that law enforcement is onto that. I don't think anybody's being fooled. And I do think that, the YouTube community at large is also, that's exactly right, Gigi. They may slip. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. They may slip. Something may slip because somebody knows what happened, right? Somebody knows. So law enforcement said that they've spent 2.5 weeks digging through tons of garbage. And they knew that this was going to turn into a landfill search, and the odds of recovering Quinton's remains were low. But they stated that they were not going to end the attempt to recover Quinton. And Bubba Jr. told the press that he was really shocked that Leilani hadn't been arrested yet, that he really feels like she needs to be arrested. And he said, quote, about Leilani, she's a terrible person and she's going to jail or hell. She's evil. She shouldn't be here out in society. If she didn't want him, she could have told me and I would have come and got him. And that just breaks my heart. It just breaks my heart. How do you guys feel about that? About Bubba? He would have come and got him. He would have come and got his son. Energy Shot says, poor guy. And Linda says, Billie Jo crying on other channels, wanting to be coddled. They're soothing her tears and buttering her up for members too. Well, they may, it may just be kind of a fishing game where they're, letting her talk and letting her talk. That's what I hope. Bonnie Bailey feels like it's sad. And Shantae says Billie Jo is receiving gifts and funds. Well, I really hope that all of you guys are not contributing anything to Billie Jo. She had one responsibility with these boys, and that was to keep them safe. And she did put some good guardrails in place, right? She had Diana, the babysitter, scheduled to watch him during the day. And I don't know why she had to leave town. We know she had filed an eviction notice with against her daughter Leilani and Danny Youngkin, which is probably why he left the house. If somebody asked me to go, I'd go. I don't know why she had to file a formal eviction notice, why they just didn't leave on their own. I don't get that. Try to make that make sense, because it just doesn't make any sense at all. But she did have the babysitter lined up during the day. She may have had to work, but she did make a massive mistake. And she absolutely needed to have the babysitter come and stay in the house with Zane and with Quinton, because they were her primary responsibility. And she has paid a very heavy price, one that no grandparent would ever want to pay in what happened to these little guys. But let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on. And his bones would still be soft, so I don't know what kind of condition they're going to find him in. Once police find Quinton, they will have to do an autopsy to see if they can determine what has happened to him. Okay, so once they find Quinton, it's not going to automatically lead to, I just want to set our expectations to be realistic in this case. Once they find him, it's not going to immediately lead to necessarily, it could, but it's probably not going to lead immediately to someone becoming arrested, because they are going to need to do an autopsy. They are going to try to see if they can determine what happened to him. Now, as each week continues on, the condition that they find him in, he's little, so his bones are very soft. So they're not looking at this point, in my opinion, for a toddler. They're looking for remains. Okay? They're looking for remains for this little guy. But I just want to realistically set our expectations as to what is going to happen. So they're not going to find him, and then the next day they run out and arrest Leilani. They could, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I do think that they're going to do an autopsy, right? They're going to do an autopsy, try to see what they can learn from that, if anything. But at least they have him, because then Leilani can't pretend that somebody came into the house and took him. That will take that defense away. And remember, they've cleared the other people that she has tried to dirty up. And Debbie is saying it took months, but they found Neva Adams in the landfill. Case didn't get that much press, but he was thrown in a dumpster. How sad. How absolutely heartbreaking. Really heartbreaking. It's just, I do think we need to be able to just accept the fact that these things do happen. They happen. And it doesn't matter how young someone is, or how beautiful someone is, or how handsome someone is. They can still be awful people. So we do know that within 48 hours of Leilani reporting Quinton missing, that police and FBI descended on this trailer park. They went into this trailer park. They knocked on almost every single door in this trailer park, showing them photographs of Quinton, showing them photographs of Leilani, showing them photographs of Billie Jo, and 3 other people that are not named. They asked if they had seen a particular car, and they got something from that. Because, as I said earlier, there's no way they would be out searching that landfill. They wouldn't be out searching that landfill if they didn't think they had something. So I believe they have her on video at one of those dumpsters. And that's why they've named her as their only suspect. And that's why they're searching this landfill so carefully. So let's continue on together, guys. Now, we don't know what kind of condition he'll be found in. With Caylee Anthony, there was not a lot left to work with, and this made it very hard to make the case against Casey. To be clear, Casey was found not guilty. Once law enforcement have him, they will have to determine left to work with, and this made it very hard to make the case. And for those of you that haven't heard, the Peacock channel, which I believe is NBC, they have an interview, a recent interview from like in the last couple of weeks of Casey coming out, where she wants to come out and tell her side of it. She wants to tell her side of what happens. And I'm really, really interested to hear what she has to say for herself after all of this time, because she, hid. She got off, but she almost created her own prison, because I believe at the time of her trial, even though she was found not guilty, she was probably at that time one of the most despised women in America, right? Daphne says, it's a simple fact that mother and daughter should have been taken into custody for questioning. Given the third degree, you don't just say the suspect in the case. Well, we don't know that they weren't questioned, right? We don't know if they were questioned or not questioned. Enforcement hasn't told us that yet. So maybe they were questioned. I suspect that they were. I've heard, I can't confirm this independently, I've heard that Leilani was questioned, and I have no doubt that Billie Jo was questioned as well. Energy Shot says, I was thinking that they have some information and they're going with it. And I agree with you, Energy Shots. I do think that law enforcement has some information, and that's why they're in that landfill. Trust me when I tell you this, there is no way they would be searching that landfill if they thought he was somewhere else. They are in hazmat suits. It is stinky. It is gross. It can cause you health issues. They're being exposed to hepatitis, all kinds of things by going out into that landfill. It's horrible what they're having to do, but they're there because that's where they really believe. And that's why I just really do believe in my heart of hearts that they know that she threw him in one of those dumpsters, that they have her on video at one of those dumpsters. Yeah, Duper's Delight. Exactly. Let's continue on, guys. It's Casey. To be clear, Casey was found not guilty. Once law enforcement have him, they will have to determine what happened to him. And at this time, we will see charges filed against Leilani and anyone who aided and abetted her. And I'm going to talk about Diana the babysitter and Billie Jo in just a moment, so please stay with me. Casey Anthony was found not guilty by a jury. And just like Casey, Leilani lived with her parents, or her mom, and I believe it's her stepdad, Billie Jo Howell and Tommy Howell, together with Leilani's live-in boyfriend, Danny Youngkin, who disappeared. Supposedly his parents came and picked him up and took him back to Atlanta, but there have been reports that he is in North Carolina at this time. Do they have a case against Danny Youngkin? I don't know. They might. So a lot's been made of the fact that, Danny Youngkin left. But he was served an eviction notice. And I do wonder if that was a catalyst that led up to this. If there was a cascade of events that led up to what happened to Quinton. I mean, you can imagine Billie Jo and her husband lived under that roof, right? And then they had another son living there with one child. And then they had custody of Quinton and Zane, right? And then they had Leilani with her live-in boyfriend, Danny Youngkin, and their baby, Sky, all living together under one roof. You can just imagine how much tension and stress there would have been in that household with all of them there, crammed in, right? crammed in. So Danny left, but he was asked to move out. So I don't think his, leaving and getting picked up by his parents. I think it's weird that he didn't have a car or didn't drive. I think that's unusual. But I don't think that in and of itself means that he ran away, because he couldn't really stay because he had been served an eviction notice by Billie Jo. I guess she waived it for her daughter. Jane says, Casey and Leilani are similar in their personality and behaviors. Yeah, both were out partying, right? I mean, I think, one of the things they tried to say in the Casey Anthony trial was they talked about, her tattoo, that living the good life, right? La vida, living the good life. And that she just wanted to have a different life. Same thing with Chris Watts. He met somebody else. He wanted to start his life fresh and new. So he got rid of his children and his pregnant wife, threw them away, put the girls into those god-awful tanks. And just imagine the poor rescue guys who had to pull those little girls out. And Bonnie says that she thinks Danny wanted to get the heck out of Dodge. Yeah, I think so. They were looking it up. I agree, Jane. I agree. Or the new Casey was found not guilty, so maybe the new Susan Smith. But yeah, there's a lot of similarities. Leilani and her mother ran up a $300 plus bar tab at Stingrays. That's a lot of money, $300 with their friends. Why did they go to a motel? Why did they go to a motel? I think they were worried their house was bugged by law enforcement, and maybe it was. And they needed to get their stories straight. Billie Jo does not have a clean record. She does have a criminal record. Leilani does not have a clean record. She does have a criminal record. So they stayed at the $65 a night motel, and then the partying at Stingrays, having a great time, flirting with the wait staff, running up a $300 bar tab. What was that? That was them celebrating. That was them celebrating. And you juxtapose that with law enforcement searching through the garbage for Quinton. And Tara, I would not either. I wouldn't either. So let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on. If you would be so kind as to subscribe to Reporter Room, if you're finding this video to be helpful, and give us a thumbs up. It really does help out a lot with the YouTube algorithm to get the thumbs up. Need Danny to make their case against Leilani. Leilani did not have custody of either Quinton or Zane, her two eldest boys, who were both preschoolers. And she did have custody of her daughter, Sky, who she had with Danny Youngkin. So Billie Jo was entrusted by the state of Georgia to care for these boys. And it is just so disappointing that she decided to take a job out of town. And, to be fair, maybe she did have to work, but it's so disappointing that she hasn't come forward to try to help or advocate for Quinton. At the time of... Yeah, I think all of us, no matter what you think, happened to Quinton that morning. And it does appear that law enforcement believes that it happened after Danny Youngkin left the house at 6 a.m. He said he saw Quinton. And, that does leave a 3-hour window, right? It leaves a 3-hour window. And that was another massive mistake for him to just leave this child, a second person, in the care of Leilani. So Billie Jo left Quinton in the care of Leilani, and then Danny left Quinton in the care of Leilani. How things might have been different if he had taken the kids to the babysitters or asked the babysitter to come pick them up. But boy, they really went after the babysitter too. They really did try to dirty her up, cause drama, deflect, anything they could do to try to blame this babysitter. And I have to tell you, I think that Diana, the babysitter, was probably the only caregiver that really loved this little guy. I don't know what to say about the behavior of this grandmother. I kept waiting for her to wake up and to come forward and to do the right thing, which would be advocate for Quinton. But we haven't seen that. I wanted to believe that the whole trip to Stingrays was her trying to get Leilani inebriated, and maybe she was trying to get the truth out of Leilani. But I'm not buying that anymore. All of the sympathy and empathy that I had for Billie Jo at the beginning of this, and Billie Jo, I know you do watch these YouTube videos. I just want to tell you, I think you should come out and say what happened to Quinton. I think you should do the right thing for him. I think you owe him that much. And it would rehabilitate your reputation, which has taken a massive hit. I don't know how you can come back from that. I really don't. Yes, Tara saying the babysitter didn't do it herself with her behavior on TikTok. I didn't see all of those. But I saw some of them. And, I do think she loved him. And, none of us are perfect. And when you see these cases come up, I think we do get to really see that, the humanity. If we dug into somebody's life, what would we find? What would we find if we dug into a whole family's life like this, or a babysitter's life? I mean, nobody's perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. Wonder Woman says, there had to be someone else there to watch the other kids. Well, yeah. Or she left them unattended. I think we're assuming that she would somehow care about the other kids. But, Energy Shots is talking about Billie Jo. She said, she is as broken as her children. Children grow and live what they learn. She is too weak to come forward. Oof. Yeah. This is all just only our opinion, guys. We're all sharing our opinions. But I do think that the right thing, the best thing, the most honorable thing would have been to come forward on behalf of Quinton, Billie Jo. I really do. So let's continue on, guys. Quinton's disappearance, complete chaos, descends onto the beautiful community of Savannah, Georgia, as Billie Jo goes after Diana the babysitter in a fit of rage. And I'm going to talk more about the FBI and what we can expect in just a moment, so please stay with me. We learned a lot about Billie Jo's demeanor and who she really is in this moment, and I think that many of us felt a lot of sympathy for Billie Jo. However, the more we've learned about her, the harder it's been to sympathize with her. She just doesn't make a sympathetic, grandmotherly type of character. So Quinton disappears, and had nothing in her demeanor, from sitting out that, in the front lawn, to just kind of antagonize the protesters. And most of them are protesting peacefully. We've had a couple of, wackadoodle doos out there, but they've been the minority, not the majority. The majority of the protesters that are out there are protesting peacefully. They are obeying the law. They're just out there because they want to know what happened to Quinton. And it's really frustrating when you see this family just, working together as a team to stop justice, in my opinion, to stop justice for Quinton. And I think that's all that most of us want, is justice for this little guy. He deserves that. He deserved more. He deserved way more than what he got. That's for sure. But I think all of us just want justice. He deserves that. and the police and FBI are looking everywhere for him. They even drained the family pool. But then everyone got this awful shock, and rumors abound that the police have Leilani on tape throwing Quinton into the trash. This is immediately followed with police naming Leilani as the primary suspect, and the only suspect in what happened to Quinton. So let's get back to Billie Jo for a moment. It appears that Billie Jo is pretty much running the show at the Howell house, right? So I do believe at this point that it is Billie Jo that is masterminding and orchestrating all of this. She's, has I think I told you her arrest record. Let me just go through it again. Let's just look at this together. So she has arrests all over the United States, including Clay County. You can look that up yourself. It's in Florida. She has a arrest record for credit card fraud, substances, burglary, larceny. Larceny is like swindling people out of money, writing bad checks or using somebody else's credit card, prostitution. So I don't even know how she got Quinton and Zane, except somebody in the chat pointed out that maybe she got them because they wanted to keep the kids together. Maybe because they thought she had cleaned up her life. But she's had a long track record of, skirting around the law. She has integrity issues, in my opinion. And Leilani also has some integrity issues. She has been arrested for breaking into someone's house. Can you imagine having someone break into your house? She's arrested for stealing from her employer. And that's just what she's been caught for. And she's young. I think she's only 22, right? So I think Billie Jo, in my opinion, is right at this point, she's the mastermind behind this. Yeah, Rianne says it. What an example of being a good grandmother and mother. Yes, exactly. And Gigi says, master manipulator. Exactly. And Energy Shot says, oh, I see. There it is. Way to go, Billie Jo. Mother of the year. Not quite. And couldn't agree more. In my opinion, Billie Jo is definitely the ringleader, now trying to cover up what happened. It's absolutely disgusting. I think that it is just really shocking that she's just been able to get away with everything. Jane says she has integrity issues. Yes, I think that's like the most polite way I can put it. And Tara says, wow, I knew she had a record, but I didn't know all of that. If you look at the home from the road, it looks like they live above the pay grade family in a nice neighborhood and a nice house. Yeah, it's a very nice looking house. It's a very nice looking house. And Maria, I agree with you. CPS should not have let her have custody over the kids. I agree. Well, let's continue on, guys. We have a lot to get through. Deployed her son to go out and dirty up Diana the babysitter. She deployed her son to go out and dirty up Leilani's boyfriend and Quinton's real father, Bubba. And she's dirtying up Danny Youngkin. Watching Billie Jo trying to shed a tear on behalf of Quinton during the interview on Fox with Leilani was a stark contrast to the real grief that we saw from George and Cindy Anthony. Look at the difference in the faces, right? There's George and Cindy with t-shirts having a vigil for Kaylee. And then let's look at these two. Trying to shed a tear on behalf of Quinton during the... Billie Jo won't even look at Leilani. She knows. I don't see any tears. I've watched this interview multiple times. I see two people trying to cry. I don't see anybody squeezing out any tears. There's no tears. And the fact that Billie Jo can't even look at her says it all. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Shantae. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate it. I will put it to good use. I am saving up to improve some of my editing equipment. including my computer and a camera. So I really will put that to good use. Thank you. So yeah, it's just unbelievable. And you just look at the difference between the two people. There's Leilani, and then we have, let's see if I can get it there. Two people who made t-shirts. The mother who actually called law enforcement on her daughter. They passed out flyers. They had a vigil. All I've seen Leilani and Billie Jo and their ilk do is go on YouTube and sit down on the front lawn, smoke cigarettes, and get into disputes with mostly peaceful protesters who are just out there because they want justice. They know someone knows what happened to Quinton. They know. I mean, law enforcement told us. Thank you so much, Jakey. I really appreciate the super sticker. Thank you very, very much. I really am grateful for that. I will put it to good use. It will go right back into editing and camera equipment. Thank you. So we know that there's a difference in the affect, right? We got two people, and then we have two people, and the actions say everything. The actions say everything. Let's continue on, guys. Cindy Anthony. After watching Billie Jo and Leilani take a trip to a motel, I'm assuming that this is because the FBI was bugging their home, and also going to a bar called Stingrays to live it up and party. They ran up a $300 bar tab, and multiple sources say that they were being flirty and, you know, just having a great time. Their demeanor, in contrast with law enforcement picking through a landfill looking for Quinton, is just shocking. And, you know, I would like to contrast this with the behavior of Casey Anthony's parents, who I believe did the decent and right thing. Casey's mother called the police on her daughter. She got t-shirts printed of Kaylee. They posted flyers. They were actively looking for their grandchild. And in contrast, Billie Jo is just sitting at the house, and I just don't understand. Billie Jo, please come forward and advocate for what happened to Quinton. I think there was a lot of dysfunction in this house. We know that Billie Jo had a variety of charges against her, right? She's not, you know, squeaky clean. And we know that she had filed an eviction notice to have Leilani and Danny move out. Now, I'm not clear on why she... So we had a cascade of events that led up to what happened to Quinton, right? It wasn't just one thing. We had a series of events. We had this eviction notice filed, and then she also went to court to get child support from Leilani for Quinton and Zane. Now, why Leilani, who was living at her house, couldn't just be relied on to pay child support for her children? But she won in court. She had won a judgment for child support. So there was a couple of things that led up to that. Now, did this increase the anger and frustration that was going on under the roof? I mean, Leilani and Danny were facing eviction, and Leilani was now going to be responsible to pay child support. And it just seems like everything about Leilani, in my opinion, screams not being responsible, right? Not very responsible. So we have all of these things leading up to what happened to Quinton, an unfortunate cascade of events. You couldn't just ask them to move out and they would agree. I don't know why courts had to be involved. I don't understand what the sense of entitlement was from Leilani and her boyfriend that they would just stay there when their mother's asking them to move out. It's just bizarre to me that she had to go to court, and by she, I'm talking about Billie Jo, to file to have these two removed from her house. But now she's saying that she wasn't really serious about that. She just wanted them to do better. Again, wasting the court's time is just not an appropriate thing. That is not what the courts are there to do. Dysfunction that Billie Jo had to go to court and file an eviction notice. Dysfunction that Billie Jo had to go to court to get Leilani to pay child support on Zane and Quinton. Again, Leilani was living with her. Why wouldn't Leilani just pay for her children? So why wouldn't Leilani just pay for the children? You know, it's the same question with Chris Watts, isn't it? Where we just all thought, why not get a divorce? Why didn't you just get a divorce? Why did you have to do away with your loved ones? Why? You wanted a new life. Why did Susan Smith make the choices she made? Her little boys had a father who loved them and cared about them. Why not just say, I can't do this anymore. I need help. Why make those crazy choices? And on that note, guys, I have been sick all week. I am just getting back to myself. I'm going to leave it there, but we will continue on with this conversation. There is more to be had. If you are a member, I'm going to go ahead and do a channel member live stream next. So I hope to see you there. And for everybody else, I have a new video coming out tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that, because sometimes in true crime stuff does get deboosted. Sometimes notifications don't come through. So please hit the notification bell to make sure that you're notified when the video comes out. And the next time I do a live stream, because I love having you guys here. And if you'd be so kind as to give me a thumbs up on your way out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Bye.